The Umbrella Corporation, the entity that would shape the Resident Evil franchise for many years, causing the many ungodly events that we see during our playthrough in the first couple of RE titles. But the question has been asked, who created this evil corporation, what was their main goal, and what caused their eventual downfall after the events of Resident Evil 3. So in this video, we'll delve in on the history of Umbrella and discuss what factors were in play during their rise and ultimately their downfall. So before we do get started with the video, I just want to say my name's DeVuH, and I do cover a lot of Resident Evil and other survival horror content on my channel. So if you guys are interested in these types of videos, then please feel free to like and subscribe for more content like this in the future, and also possibly adding me both on Instagram and on Twitter, where you guys could message me there personally at any time.
It's cool, we all want the same thing.
Alright, so as we know, the Umbrella Corporation has such a large influence for the Resident Evil series, being the foundation that would start the many viral outbreaks that we've seen during all the main title RE games, where they heavily researched the progenitor virus, which in the end was the root cause for all the catastrophes that we see during the series. So as we go all the way back in time, let's first cover who were the prominent members that would start this evil company and what their overall vision was for their foreseeable future. Which began in the early to mid 1960s with a young Oswell E. Spencer, the heir to the Spencer lineage, who was known to be one of the European elite families, with also Edward Ashford, a member of the powerful and prestigious Ashford family.
This game is not over yet. Now you will see what real terror is all about.
And the renowned James Marcus, the man who would later create the T-Virus.
What?
With these three figures first meeting at a university, becoming close friends, and sharing the fascination of virology and eugenics, creating a small group of individuals who envision the world with a superior breed of the human race, which this passion stems from the interest of both James Marcus and Oswell Spencer, where both have read a 72-volume book series called The Natural History of Conspectus, which was written by a man named Henry Travis, where he detailed his 35-year research and observation around Africa, learning about the communities, plants, animals, and minerals. So during their early adult years, James Marcus and Spencer's intrigue with the book that Henry created directed them to the Kijuju region of West Africa, using the book as a guide, where there was mention of a rare flower who imbued supernatural benefits to those who consumed it, with the DeVuH tribe of West Africa being the ones most known to do this ritualistic flower consumption, with history stating that after eating said flower, most who did consume it would be afflicted with disease. But for some rare individuals of the DeVuH tribe, one would be able to consume the flower, but instead of being disease-ridden like most, this rare individual would be granted with superhuman-like strength and intelligence, which James Marcus suspected that it may be due to a mutagenic virus that would grant said abilities. Of course, this would make James and Oswell E. Spencer wanting to know more about this flower, because this could be the catalyst that would propagate the start of their vision of eugenics, with the initial expedition to West Africa being done by James Marcus himself and his protege Brandon Bailey, as they both would eventually find the garden that would house this rare flower, which was growing in an underground cave area on top of an ancient stone garden of the DeVuH tribe, giving the flower the name Stairway of the Sun, as it would need for someone to climb these ancient stone steps with a hole on top of the cave shining light to this famous flower. So as the story goes, the discovery of this rare flower would be the start of the research for James Marcus, trying to figure out the mechanisms within the flower and how the virus would help with that process, which he finds out after reviving an E. coli bacterial cell after exposing it to the virus from the flower, which this discovery had this new virus be called the progenitor virus. But a problem would arise when it came to researching this new discovery, which was the lack of funds and facility to conduct all the experiments needed. Also, James Marcus and his expedition to West Africa was initially funded by the university that he was in, but due to certain conflicts and allegations, these funds would stop, with Oswell E. Spencer giving James Marcus a choice of using the Spencer Foundation as a means to fund fund his research into the progenitor virus, with the rule being that he must keep this a secret, except for the close-knit group of people who were also fascinated with the vision of eugenics. Though Spencer would find out that his foundation still lacked the necessary funding to continue this new research project, and proposed to James Marcus and Edward Ashford that they should start a pharmaceutical corporation, which would not only help them with the funding for their research into the progenitor virus, but would also be used to mask all their illegal activities. Hence the birth of the Umbrella Corporation. So now with all three co-founders in place, and the progenitor virus at hand, only time will tell when their viral discovery would produce the results they wanted, with each co-founder building their own separate lab facility and conducting their own research into the progenitor virus. It almost became an arms race to discover the next step for the viral strain, with Edward Ashford setting his base at Antarctica with his son Alexander Ashford helping him with this project as well.
The Antarctic. We're over the Antarctic!
What?
All the while, James Marcus and Spencer had their facilities built out the outskirts of Raccoon City. But we'll get into both of these guys a little bit later in the video.
This is Dr. Marcus. Please be silent as we reflect upon our company motto. Obedience breeds discipline. Discipline breeds unity. Unity breeds power. Power is life.
Because as I mentioned before, Edward Ashford set up his facility at Antarctica with his son, and with the arms race between the three co-founders starting to rise, Edward found it necessary to make sure that his son Alexander, who specialized in genetics, researched into human cloning. With the rationale to this was to make sure that if anything were to happen to Edward, there would be a viable heir to the Ashford family, allowing them to keep their power within the Umbrella Corporation, and later the new world of eugenics that the three co-founders had envisioned, which proved to be fortunate for the Ashfords because the arms race between the three founders of Umbrella came to a deadly conclusion, with Edward Ashford losing his life due to a freak accident while conducting research into the progenitor virus, though it was heavily speculated that Oswell E. Spencer had something to do with this incident. So after losing Edward Ashford, the cloning process that Alexander started proved to be a success, and his father's dream of keeping the Ashfords in power played out perfectly because Alexander was able to clone his late ancestor Veronica, who was known for both her beauty and intelligence, which in the end gave birth to twins now known as Alexia and Alfred Ashford, with Alexia being a child prodigy and would continue the work of her late grandfather Edward Ashford as she conducts research and experiments with the progenitor virus herself. Also at this time during the arms race, our next co-founder had discovered a new revelation into the progenitor virus, with James Marcus during the course of the 1970s and 1980s has finally made a breakthrough where he mixed leached DNA with the progenitor virus, creating the infamous T-virus, which would allow the infected to be reanimated. But like we've discussed earlier in the video, where a rare Indipia tribe member would receive the benefits from this virus, so too would a rare individual receive benefits from the T-virus, where they would gain superhuman strength, though not perfect and lacking any intelligence. But still, this new discovery by James Marcus was the next step into the eugenics vision that the founders had. Also, Spencer at this time found Marcus's influence within the Umbrella Corporation growing, and this new discovery using leeches only made it worse, and with the tension between the founders at an all-time high due to their power struggle within the corporation, Spencer had deemed it necessary to assassinate his former friend, setting the USS or the Umbrella Security Service to do the dirty work, with both Albert Wesker and William Bergen, two prominent virologists in their own right, who worked under Spencer, was present as well, with William eventually taking over James Marcus's research into the T-virus until he would later on create the G-virus.
I will take over your research.
Wesker. Birkin.
While Albert Wesker would continue on his work with Umbrella from the 1980s to the 1990s. Anyway, so far, we've discussed two of the three co-founders and how they progressed through the years after the initial creation of the Umbrella Corporation. But the third member, Oswell E. Spencer, would become more of a mysterious figure within the company, being known to operate in the shadows and rarely revealing himself to anyone. But during the course of this arms race, Spencer would work alongside a man by the name of Dr. Wesker, not to be confused with Albert or Alex Wesker, with this individual had the same vision of eugenics as Spencer, and the two would eventually collaborate to start what was called Project Wesker, with the objective was to procure as many children as possible, preferably from parents who had at least had an above average IQ, and give them the best education possible and monitor them throughout their lives, with the sole intention in the end was to find the best out of these children, and then move them forward to the next stage of this project. This in turn would have 13 candidates being chosen by Spencer, and seeing their potential as the foundation to the superior breed of humans that he envisioned. And once these candidates reached their full potential, he would rule over them and the world of eugenic society as a god.
I was to become a god. Creating a new world with an advanced race of human beings.
But with the 13 candidates that he had, only 2 were able to survive the next step into the project, which was that they were infected with an experimental dose of the progenitor virus, with Albert Wesker seeing the benefits of this with his newfound superhuman strength and speed, and Alex Wesker not succumbing to the ill effects like the other candidates, which this would prove to be a success for Spencer, as he wanted full control of Umbrella, and having both Weskers on his side would help with that objective. Also, the assassination of James Marcus and the accidental death of Edward Ashford helped as well. So now with Oswell E. Spencer seemingly in full control, with Project Wesker in full effect, and those who work under him, particularly William Birkin, discovering the G virus, it seemed like nothing can stop Spencer from becoming the god of this new world.
That right is now mine. The right to be a god. You. Arrogant even until the end.
Because so far, we've discussed the initial rise of the corporation with the 3 founders and the arms race that would progress afterwards. But now at this point in the 1990s, the next step was to have the Nest facility built under Raccoon City, with William Birkin taking the lead to perfect his G-Virus project, which Spencer saw the potential to this new virus due to its regenerative capabilities. Also by this time, the Umbrella Corporation has branched out to many industries throughout the world, and not just dominating the pharmaceutical sector, with another goal they had was to create BOWs, or bioorganic weapons for the United States, allowing its military to be boosted with the use of new experimental creatures that would not only be cost effective, but would also prevent any heavy casualties on the American side. Hence the T-Virus project that James Marcus started before his death would be the foundation to said BOWs, with the creation of tyrant-like beings that would not only be formidable in both strength and speed, but would also be able to follow commands. So with all the pieces set to ensure Umbrella's dominance in the world, it was only a matter of time when this would come into fruition. But something from the past would come back to bite Umbrella, being the catalyst that would cause the eventual downfall of this corporation, with that being the supposed resurrection of James Marcus, which was explained due to his Queen Leech merging with his hippocampus after his assassination. This of course would have the Queen Leech or James Marcus start his revenge against Umbrella.
I live. Now I will have my revenge on Umbrella, and the world will burn in an inferno of hate.
Causing the T-Virus outbreak in the Umbrella training facility, and the Umbrella trained the Ecliptic Express, which in doing so would have many monsters infesting the Arklay Mountains, which would eventually make its way near Raccoon City. So with the public distress of cannibalistic attacks happening constantly around May 1998, eventually the RPD would send their STARS unit to investigate what was going on in the Arklay Mountains, with the STARS Bravo team being sent there first.
It began as a simple investigation of some bizarre murders in the suburbs of Raccoon City. Nothing in our training could ever have prepared us for the nightmare that ensued. We never stood a chance.
Little did they know that they too would be overwhelmed with the countless zombies and monsters around the area, with Rebecca Chambers continue to investigate what happened to cause this outbreak, and the story of Resident Evil 0 in full effect. We know that most of the STARS Bravo team would be wiped out or have gone missing, and that the Queen Leech was wreaking havoc as well. This in turn would have the other half of the STARS unit to be sent to search and rescue Bravo team, which the STARS Alpha team consisted of Chris Redfield, Barry Burton, Jill Valentine, and yours truly, Albert Wesker. Because little did the STARS team know that Wesker was playing as a double agent all along, which his role inside STARS was to make sure that the RPD didn't meddle with Umbrella's affairs. Also at this time, William Birkin was in constant communications with the chief of police as well, Brian Irons, again to make sure that no one meddles with Umbrella's affairs and their research into the T and G virus.
She is my creation!
So with the STARS Alpha team sent to rescue Bravo team, the events of Resident Evil 1 would now play out, where the discovery of the T virus was caused by Umbrella, and that the zombies that were doing the cannibalistic attacks near Raccoon City was a result of the T virus outbreak, and that the many illegal and inhumane experiments were conducted within the Spencer Mansion facility. Also by the end, the remaining STARS members would even face one of Umbrella's BOWs, which would be an early version of the Tyrant. So with the surviving members of STARS returning back to Raccoon City, they made it their job to make sure that the public was aware of all of Umbrella's dark secrets. But little did they know that Umbrella's hold on the city was insurmountable, because most of the citizens were employed by Umbrella, even the city council was under their payroll, and the police force also being compromised due to Chief Irons' involvement with the corporation as well. So all the allegations that the STARS stated during the events of Resident Evil 1 would be ignored, but to the detriment of the many civilians of Raccoon City, this would be a fatal mistake because the zombies and monsters of the Arklay Mountains would eventually reach the city, causing the T-virus outbreak to spread. Also, during this whole time, the city's water supply has been contaminated with the T-virus due to the rats of the sewer spreading it after the failed assassination attempt to William Birkin. So with most of the public unaware of the growing outbreak, it was only a matter of time before most of the population was infected, which happens in Resident Evil 3, and the events afterwards would have the city eventually sterilized by the US government due to the uncontrollable spread of the T-virus.
Oh no.
It's here. It's time to go.
That's it. I've had it. This time they've gone too far.
Luckily, there were enough survivors to implicate that it was Umbrella who caused this catastrophe, and some of the former employees would back up this claim as well. This in turn would have Umbrella cease their business dealings by the orders of the US government, eventually causing the company to crumble, with Oswell E. Spencer eventually going into hiding. Though some remnants of the T and G virus would still circulate around the world, explaining some of the later catastrophes that we see in the later games in the series. But the downfall of Umbrella would be finalized once Albert Wesker meets his former colleague, ending the reign of the three co-founders that started this evil corporation. Anyways, in summary, James Marcus, Oswell E. Spencer, and Edward Ashford would have a vision of eugenics for the world, causing them to discover the progenitor virus and creating the Umbrella Corporation. Though the three founders would eventually start an arms race within the company due to power and greed, causing all three to eventually turn against each other, leaving only Oswell E. Spencer as a sole survivor in the late 1990s. But unbeknownst to him, the Queen Leech absorbed James Marcus's memories, leading him to take revenge on Umbrella and spreading the T-virus in the Arklay Mountains, leading the STARS members to go investigate, but would then be decimated during the events of RE0 and RE1, with the remaining survivors of STARS making their way back to Raccoon City to try to warn the public about Umbrella and its research into the T-virus, but had no luck due to Umbrella's control of the city. Then mass outbreak would ensue due to the T-virus contaminating the water supply and the remnants of the monsters of the Arklay Mountains making their way into the city. The events of RE3 would finally happen, with most of the population being infected and Jill Valentine's escape of Raccoon City prior to the eradication by the US government. Umbrella would then be implicated to the T-virus incident and would then cease to exist due to the government's order of stopping its business, leaving Oswell E. Spencer to go into hiding and eventually losing his life to one of his subjects from the Wesker project. Anyways, what did you guys think about the Umbrella Corporation? And which was the most important factor that caused their downfall? Please let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you guys enjoy the content, then please feel free to like and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, you guys have a great rest of your day, and this is Hey DeVuH, and I'll see you guys on the next video.
There's so many.
Here! My God.
No! They're gonna get through!
Send somebody who's capable of getting me the hell out of here.
What was that?
DeVuH!
Kendall, you're all right.
You're all right to stretch.
Stop and do what? I got your back.
Go! Go!
Cloak sticky. You better hunt. Sorry.
Look out!